an ancient people from a distant galaxy.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. So, in the 2-episode premiere of Ahsoka, we learned of the existence of an ancient people from another galaxy, which is huge for the future of the Star Wars saga. So, I have a theory on who these ancient people are and how they connect not only to Grand Admiral Thrawn, but Darth Maul, Asajj Vintress, and the Jedi Fallen Order games. And we have to discuss how these ancient outsiders could serve as the big bads for the upcoming Rey trilogy.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
After retrieving the map to Thrawn, we see Baylan and Shin bring it to Morgan Elsbeth, this lady from The Mandalorian.
Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Now, Ahsoka finds this map in the ruins of what appears to be a former Night Sister temple, aka the Witches of Dathomir. More on them in just a bit. This map leads directly to Thrawn, and therefore could also lead to EZRA. See, the two of them have been missing since the season finale of Star Wars Rebels, which takes place a few years prior to the Ahsoka series. In Rebels, we saw Ezra and Thrawn get shot into hyperspace via Purrgil. Now, Purrgil are these huge space whales with long tentacles that are able to travel at faster than light speed. Now, if you haven't seen Rebels, then you may still recognize Purrgils from this scene in The Mandalorian. Okay, so at the other Stone Temple ruins on a planet Baylan refers to as Cetos,
Tell her I believe we have located the reflex point on Cetos.
we hear Baylan ask Elsbeth who built the temple, citing that it wasn't the work of the Jedi.
This place was not built by the Jedi.
Elsbeth says that the temple was built by a race of ancient people from a distant galaxy. Now, when I heard the words an ancient people from a distant galaxy in relation to Grand Admiral Thrawn, my mind immediately jumped to the Yuuzhan Vong. The Yuuzhan Vong are from the old Star Wars Legends novels, which are no longer considered canon, but we have seen aspects of those novels, like Thrawn, be adapted into the new Disney Star Wars. So the Yuuzhan Vong are a race of ancient aliens who are from beyond the Star Wars galaxy. Thrawn's species, the Chiss, referred to them as the Far Outsiders. The Yuuzhan Vong were zealots who despised mechanical technology. In the Legends material, they invaded the galaxy and killed hundreds of trillions of people in their war with the New Republic. And what made them all the more terrifying was that they were unable to be detected with the Force. Now, the Yuuzhan Vong have never officially been introduced into Star Wars canon, but they've seemingly been replaced with a new similar species that is canon called the Grisk.
Hey, what's that thing you keep doing there?
Ah, well, okay, true story, Doug. It's actually been a really stressful week around here. We had the double episode drop of Ahsoka, launching the new merch store, follow-up videos for Ahsoka, and I have this super annoying habit where when I have anxiety, I pop breath mints all day. Like, I go through one of these in an entire day sometimes. And what starts to happen is it's bad for your teeth, it gives me headaches, and it would like wear away part of my cheek skin. Super gross.
Wow, you're some kind of manly man, huh?
That's right, Doug. People do respond with stress with different oral fixation habits, like stress eating, drinking coffee, whatever it is. So I found out that using this naturally diffusive device called Fume is a much more pleasant way to trade out your negative habits for a positive one.
Yeah, well, it looks like a vape.
Dude, look, this is not a vape. Look, it's not even electrical, and it doesn't have pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals. Instead, it has these plant-based cores that are infused with natural flavors. Personally, I like orange vanilla the best. Makes my breath smell nice too. You see, Fume, the sponsor of this video, uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. Plus, it has an adjustable airflow that is designed with movable parts and magnets for fidgeting, giving my fingers something to do, which is also helpful for calming my anxiety. So head to tryfume.com/ScreenCrush and use the code ScreenCrush to save 10% when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and everything you need to be free of your bad habit. That's tryfum.com and use the code ScreenCrush to save an additional 10% off your order today. You won't regret it. Okay, back to Ahsoka and the Grisk. So just like in Legends, we have heard Thrawn discuss the great threat that the Grisk could pose to the Empire and to the galaxy as a whole, just like the Yuuzhan Vong. But I personally don't think that the Yuuzhan Vong or the Grisk will be the ancient people that Elsbeth is referring to. The way she speaks of these ancient people sounds like she has a great admiration for them, almost like an ancestral bond. We learned in these first 2 episodes that Morgan is actually a Night Sister of planet Dathomir. The Night Sisters are an ancient clan of magic-wielding Force users.
Magic? I love magic.
Well, Doug, it's actually magic with a K. It's a form of sorcery that is heavily connected to the dark side of the Force, and it's mostly associated with the Night Sisters. So when Ahsoka was in the former Night Sister temple, she rotated these pillars, resulting in glowing orbs and the retrieval of the star map that leads to Thrawn. This scene actually tells us almost everything we need to know about this other galaxy and this secret race of people. See, the scene is very reminiscent of Cal's quest in the ancient Zeffo temple in Jedi Fallen Order.
I believe this to be the earliest Zeffo site we've uncovered yet.
The water?
The Zeffo, another ancient race of aliens that actually had a strong connection to the Force, but they were eventually corrupted by the dark side, which caused them to basically go extinct. But we're going to dive deep into their history and connection to the Night Sisters just a little bit later in the video. But for now, I'll just say that this connection between the Night Sisters and the Zeffo could mean that we are getting some ancient alien material in this series after all.
We became human.
Okay, so back to the Night Sisters. They first appeared in a 1994 Legends novel called The Courtship of Princess Leia, but they made their canon debut in the Clone Wars animated series. The Night Sisters played a large part in the origins of both Darth Maul and Asajj Vintress, two infamous dark side users. Darth Maul was a Zabrak who was born on the planet Dathomir, and his mother, Talzin, was actually the leader of the Night Sisters. So Asajj Vintress was a pupil of Count Dooku, and she was a major player during the Clone Wars series. And she was also born on Dathomir and later became a Night Sister. The point being that Dave Filoni, the creator of Ahsoka and the showrunner of Clone Wars and Rebels, he has used Night Sisters a lot in his Star Wars stories. So I think it's very likely that he'll continue to bring in elements from his own Star Wars creations into his new live-action projects. And I mean, just look at these ruins on Cetos. This is a witch's coven if I've ever seen one.
Witches are near.
Now, if you like the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka and you are pumped to celebrate this show, then you might like our Apprentice Lives t-shirt, which is available at our merch store. We have just launched a whole collection of far, far away stuff that I think you're gonna love. We have this Hello There shirt, my personal new favorite shirt, the one that says Prequel Apologist, Thank You George. This is actually a companion shirt to our bestseller Original Trilogy t-shirt. And we've also got Doug as the child, and of course, the Somehow Palpatine Returned.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Once again, shopping the merch store is the best way you can reach out and support our channel. We deeply appreciate all the support you guys give us and watching this video right now. So, at the end of the Clone Wars, Darth Sidious ordered Dooku to wipe out all of the Night Sisters. Now, they later came back as ghosts in Rebels and in Fallen Order, but as far as we know, the only 2 living Night Sisters are Merrin from Fallen Order and Morgan Elsbeth. But we think that's all about to change, and that the Purrgil are the key. And this episode gave us a huge hint that the Purrgil and the Night Sisters are connected to one of the strangest stories in all of Star Wars, the World Between Worlds. Now, earlier I talked about the Purrgil. These are the light-speed traveling space whales. Well, in this ring surrounding the galaxy Thrawn is in, we can see Purrgil, just like we saw Loth wolves around the ring that Ezra went through in Season 4 of Rebels when he entered the World Between Worlds, but more on those wolves in just a minute.
Yeah, what's the world between worlds? Talk about that.
Okay, so the World Between Worlds is essentially a place that exists outside of time and space. When Ezra enters the portal within the Jedi Temple on Lothal, we can hear voices from various moments in the Star Wars saga echoing, such as Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Rey.
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
Now, these various portals are essentially doors to different moments throughout space and time. Here we can see Ezra looking into a portal where he sees Darth Vader and Ahsoka in their epic duel from the Season 2 of Rebels. Ezra pulls Ahsoka from her place in time and saves her life from Vader.
He was going to... So I grabbed you and I pulled you out of there.
The portal Ahsoka comes through is surrounded by triangles, and this represents the pyramid-shaped Sith temple where she and Vader were dueling. Now, I think this signifies that there are Force hotspots throughout the galaxy and beyond that are all connected, meaning that this map to Thrawn could actually be a map to the World Between Worlds, or, as Balin calls it,
Pathway to Peridia.
This stone coven on Cetos could be one of many portals that are connected through this World Between Worlds. Friend of the channel Dodd Sides pointed out that this is reminiscent of the Infinity Gates and Star Temples from Legends material. There's a species called the Qua, and they are from Dathomir just like the Night Sisters. They developed a technology called the Infinity Gate that was housed within ancient structures called Star Temples. Infinity Gates allowed for instantaneous travel across the galaxy, just like we've seen in the World Between Worlds. Now, Ezra entered this World Between Worlds through a Jedi temple on the planet Lothal. Lothal is the home planet of Ezra Bridger and the Loth wolves that I mentioned earlier. So Loth wolves have a strong connection to the Force. Like the Purrgil, Loth wolves are also able to travel through hyperspace in their own unique way, via a Force power known as hyperspace tunneling. In Rebels, we saw the White Loth wolf transport the rebels from the northern hemisphere of Lothal to the southern hemisphere via one of these hyperspace tunnels.
There's just you and me.
So how does that connect to the mean witch ladies?
Well, it is clear that a strong connection to the Force is necessary to access and travel through the world between worlds, but perhaps this ability comes more naturally to those on the light side, and to achieve this travel through the dark side, you must use magic with a K. You see, when we saw Emperor Palpatine speak to Ahsoka and Ezra through the world between worlds, he was having to use magic. Now, the Night Sisters' use of magic always conjures a green flame. We even see Morgan Elsbeth do this to activate the map, and here in Rebels we can see Palpatine leaning over a cauldron of sorts, conjuring a blue flame, and he's speaking some kind of ancient language very similar to that of the Night Sisters. This is yet another connection between the world between worlds, hyperspace travel, and the Night Sisters. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Ezra entered the world between worlds through a portal on Lothal, home to the Lothwolves. The portal Ezra came through had Lothwolves around it, like the portal from the pyramid-shaped Sith temple had triangles around it. So, a portal that has Purgil around it likely leads to wherever Purgil call home. This is likely a planet with a strong connection to the Force, similar to a planet like Dagobah. So, this is where we get into this crucial connection between the Purgil, hyperspace, and the Force. In the Star Wars galaxy, people are able to travel faster than light by entering a subdimension called hyperspace. To exit hyperspace, navigation computers are used to determine if real space is empty. Otherwise, you'd rematerialize inside of a star or like another ship. But the earliest hyperspace travelers did not have these computers, so they followed the migration paths of the Purgil. And get this, instead of using nav computers, Force users were used to navigate hyperspace. Force users have the ability to see the future, so they were able to use that ability to see if the ship would materialize inside of a planet or a star or something. In fact, races like the Chiss, that's Thrawn's race, use Force-sensitive people to feel their way through the Force, because hyperspace is inherently tied to the Force itself. Seeing the Purgil symbol in a circle could symbolize the Purgil migration path. They travel to places, but they always return to their home galaxy to give birth, just like whales do in our oceans. And maybe their birthing ground in this other galaxy was overtaken by a certain group of dark side wielding witches. That's right, I think that the Night Sisters themselves are from this other galaxy.
A shocking gasp.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. Why else would a Night Sister map and temple point to this other galaxy? This also explains why Elsbeth wants to rejoin her sisters on the far end of the universe. In this galaxy, the Sith destroyed her people, and now Thrawn has traveled to this ancient world, and this is how an ancient Night Sister map can lead to Thrawn. You see, Star Wars Rebels ends with Ezra and Thrawn being whisked away on a Purgil migration. So, this Night Sister map is not a map to Thrawn. It is a map of Purgil migration paths that will eventually lead to Thrawn. I mean, man, imagine Thrawn working with a planet full of Night Sisters, combining his forces with the Imperial army that's left. The New Republic does not stand a chance.
We're gonna lose this war.
Or maybe this other galaxy is actually the ancient home of the Night Sisters' ancestors, the Zeffo.
Oh yeah, talk about the Zeffo.
Yeah, okay, I promise we'll talk about the Zeffo in just a second, but first I gotta finish my witch case. So Thrawn has an obsession with the study of different cultures.
To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not simply their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy, art.
It is likely that he was aware of ancient legends connected to the Purgil, the Night Sisters, and traveling through space and time. Thrawn also had knowledge of Force-based hyperspace travel because his people, the Chiss, use Force-sensitive children called Skywalkers to navigate through hyperspace. These Skywalkers were able to safely navigate through hyperspace without the need for hyperspace lanes, but their power typically faded in their teenage years. Now, the Chiss don't refer to Skywalkers as Force-sensitive, but instead they call the ability the Third Sight. So, Thrawn knows about Force-based travel, and we know that he and Morgan work together while they both serve the Empire.
Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?
So now, somehow, Thrawn is able to call out to Morgan across the galaxies.
Thrawn calls to me, across time and space.
Now, this line is yet another clue pointing to a connection between this map and the world between worlds. Star Wars has always kind of ignored the concept of time dilation.
Time to what now?
Time dilation. It's essentially the theory that when two different individuals experience different amounts of gravitational pull relative to the speed at which they are traveling or the planet they're residing on, that they'll experience time faster or slower than the other person relative to their current point in space.
This is so confusing.
The best film example of time dilation is probably Interstellar. When Matthew McConaughey's character is on a planet with different gravitational pull than Earth, we see him age much slower than his daughter and his crewmate back on the ship.
Every hour we spend on that planet will be 7 years back on Earth.
Now, while time seemed to pass at a normal speed for both parties, the relative gravitational forces altered their respective flows of space-time.
I don't get it.
Basically, Thrawn is so far away that in order for him to speak to Elsbeth, he'd have to be speaking through both time and space for the message to get to her in a timely manner. And, thanks to the world between worlds, they are able to subside time dilation. That is likely how these two are able to speak, and how they'll be able to reconnect without one having aged 50 years more than the other. Now, we've cited several examples of hyperspace travel once being accomplished solely through the Force. So, it is possible that many different types of Force users were familiar with these portals and used them like we've seen in the world between worlds. These ring-shaped portals may have even inspired the creation of the hyperspace transport ring that we have seen used on smaller Jedi spacecraft. And these rings and portals very likely inspired the huge hyperspace ring that we saw here in Ahsoka that will be used to travel to Thrawn.
Installation of the final hyperdrive has begun.
Soon the Eye of Sion will be complete, and ye shall deliver Grand Admiral Thrawn.
And this finally brings us to the Zeffo. Now, it is possible that the Night Sisters did not originate from this distant galaxy that Elsbeth speaks of, but rather that they made contact with another species called the Zeffo. Now, the Zeffo were an ancient civilization of beings who could wield the Force, which they refer to as Life Wind.
Teehee.
Doug.
Sorry.
Now, the Zeffo were once a peaceful civilization that lived in the outer rim of the main Star Wars galaxy, but over the years their civilization became more and more corrupt and eventually fell victim to the temptation of the dark side. And, like I mentioned off the top, we've actually seen a Zephonian temple in the game Jedi Fallen Order. And look, I am not just throwing stuff together here. The orbs in the Night Sister temple and the map itself are very much like these giant glowing orbs you have to activate in the Zeffo temple. And Mastertainment on Twitter has pointed out the recurrence of 3 figures. There are 3 stone figures in the Zeffo temple, 3 figures carved into the Night Sister temple, which likely represent the Mother, the Maiden, and the Crone. But you know where else we've seen 3 figures before? On the mural that opens the World Between Worlds.
What? It's all connected.
That's right, Doug. Ezra entered the World Between Worlds by using the Force to move this mural into a particular position. Now, if you've seen the Clone Wars, then you recognize these figures as the father, the sister, and the brother. And the sister has a particular strong connection to Ahsoka that isn't really relevant to this video, but it means that she could be crucial to unlocking this pathway to another galaxy. Okay, so back to the history of the Zeffo. When they were corrupted and suddenly facing extinction, the remaining Zephonians, they fled to the unknown regions of the galaxy, a place that they called the Great Unknown. And the unknown regions are almost impossible to navigate. I mean, we saw this in The Rise of Skywalker. You either need a special map, or you need Force sensitivity to feel your way through this area of damaged hyperspace that the locals call the Chaos. So, what if these ancient Zephonians used their Force abilities to travel from the main Star Wars galaxy to this distant other galaxy? And what if the specific dark side powers they were corrupted by was the discovery of Force magic? That's right, magic with a K, the same magic that the Night Sisters use. This new Force ability opened the Zepho's eyes to the ability to travel through space-time. If the Zeffo were the original users of Force magic, they could be ancestors of the Night Sisters. Well, culturally speaking, that is. The Zeffo abandoned temple could be what inspired the formation of the Night Sisters and how they learned Force magic from ancient texts left behind from an ancient alien race. The temple that we see Elsbeth, Baylan, and Shin standing in could be an ancient temple that was once home to the Zeffo and has since been adopted by the Night Sisters. So maybe we'll get to see the Zeffo be both an ancestor to the Night Sisters and serve as a replacement for the Yuuzhan Vong and the Grisk. And by the way, keep in mind, this is all happening like decades before the sequel trilogy. So maybe the Night Sisters and perhaps even the Zeffo are part of the Sith occult that we see serving as loyalists to Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. These Mandalorian-era Star Wars shows have been focusing heavily on the cloning tech that brought back Palpatine.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
And rightly so. So it'd make sense if they continue that theme going forward. And like I mentioned earlier, we've seen Palpatine use this same dark magic before. Perhaps dark magic played a pivotal role in his resurrection. But don't forget, we are getting a brand new trilogy of Rey-focused films where we will see Rey Skywalker rebuild the Jedi Order, perhaps with the help of Grogu, Ezra, and Ahsoka Tano. And in this new trilogy, the Sith will have been defeated again. So I think it'd be kind of lazy to bring them back again. But I also don't want the new Jedi Order's big enemy to be some random clan space pirates. So what if there is a new dark side threat, but they aren't Sith? They're dark side magic users like the Night Sisters, or surviving Sith occultists who have it out for Rey Skywalker after she killed their master and so many of their fellow cultists. A group of dark magic wielders with their own temple built on the ruins of Exegol. Witches who are recruiting Force users from across the galaxy would make the perfect foe to Rey's new order. And if a time-traveling Ahsoka or even a 70-year-old Ahsoka is there to guide Rey in her battle with those familiar foes, well, that would just be poetic.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
And just a reminder, everyone, to change your bad habits today, head to tryfum.com and use the code ScreenCrush to save an additional 10% off your order today. So those are our theories on who these people from another galaxy truly are. Let us know your thoughts and theories down in the comments below, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.